I'm going to be straight up. I think if Saquon Barkley had a competent offense and definitely an offensive line, he would be the best running back in all of football. But unfortunately, he does not. But I still think that as a football fan, I don't think you can not acknowledge Saquon Barkley as the elite talent that he is. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background as to what he's done as a football player and why I think that the guy projects as a future Hall of Famer. How you guys doing? It is Monday, June 1st, 2020 here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this little piece, I'm just going to give you a little background as to who Saquon Barkley is as a football player. So, of course, naturally, he is a kid who was born in the Bronx. So of course, he's playing for his hometown team. As of right now, he's 5'11", 233 pounds. He's an amazing mix of size, speed, quickness, agility, just all of the above. He's built like a bowling ball, and he has the agility of a gazelle. He's just one of the league's best. So just going back, originally growing up in Bronx, he would go play in Pennsylvania, where he would eventually become not a top-rated prospect, but he was a 4-star, meaning that people thought that he was going to have a sophomore year impact instead of a freshman year impact if you don't understand the star system as to how they, in terms of how they rate their players. 5-star meaning you're going to make an immediate freshman year impact, 4 is sophomore, 3 junior, 2 is senior, and 1 is maybe in your graduate senior season. Like if that's how the star system works. But going back to Saquon Barkley, he would eventually get a scholarship to go play at Penn State, where we all know he played. He originally committed to Rutgers, but then he changed. But he would go on to change Penn State football with what he was doing. In his first season, he would play 11 games, finish with 1,237 yards from scrimmage, with 7 touchdowns on the ground, 1 through the air, helping Penn State get a 7. They were a 7-6 team, and this was James Franklin's second season playing in Penn State before they actually really kind of blew up. But Saquon Barkley, of course, at that time, because he's got 1,000 yards, he was putting himself on the map as a freshman. Now people had to start watching and seeing what he was doing. Many fans are aware of the amount of work that he's put in to become the player that he is right now. And of course, he's always had that work ethic. But now that he's gotten to Penn State and he was given that opportunity, of course, he wasn't going to lose that opportunity. So transitioning into his sophomore season, he would go on to be one of the league's top players. 2016 as a sophomore, he had 1,800 yards total, 1,500 on the ground, and 300 or 400 through the air. He finished with 22 total touchdowns on the season, basically setting up the way for him to be referred to as Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year, the Dane Running Back of the Year, and he was first team All Big Ten after being second team All Big Ten the previous season. So of course, after his second season, Saquon Barkley had kind of put Penn State back on the map for the first time, really since Joe Pa left. They went 11-3 in their second season, finishing with a loss in the Rose Bowl to USC. It was a tough game, but they ended up losing by 3 points. But that was kind of the legacy of Saquon Barkley, because Penn State is now where it is now with James Franklin, of course. And I know, looking back, James Franklin's glad that he got Saquon Barkley to come to Penn State and really show what he was about and pave the way for other running backs that would follow behind him. But that was his legacy through his sophomore year. And then, of course, going into his junior year, he would once again play 13 games instead of 14. He would have more yards from scrimmage, 1,903 yards from scrimmage. He'd have 18 touchdowns on the ground. He'd have 3 touchdowns through the air with 600 yards in the air. So at this point, he was setting himself as a dual threat that the NFL just had to take notice of. And of course, in 2017, he was given the Paul Hornung Award. He was for the best running back. He was a consensus All-American. He was named the Dane Running Back Player of the Year again. He was the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year again. He was the Rogers Dwight Return Specialist of the Year, first time he got that one, and he was first team All Big Ten. So that's who Saquon Barkley was. Of course, he gets to the combine and dominates. I'm not going to really go over combine statistics just to show how good of a football player he is. But everyone was well aware of the impact that he'd had at Penn State and how great of an athlete he was overall. So he would end up being taken second in the 2018 draft by the New York Giants, just to kind of start their rebuild. And this was the player that they were going to build their entire rebuild around. Of course, when he was a prospect, people were even giving him comparisons to some of the best running backs ever. Naturally, he would go to the NFL, and in his first season, at 21 years old, he was a Pro Bowler, finishing with 2,028 yards from scrimmage. He finished with a record of the most receptions by a rookie running back in a single season. And of course, that year he'd have 91 receptions, and he would lead the NFL in yards from scrimmage as a rookie, while getting 1,300 yards on the ground, and he had 700 yards through the air, being most of this New York Giants offense from the backfield. And I mean, this is really what he's been doing. And of course, rushing, receiving touchdowns, he had 15. I forgot to mention that. But that was his rookie year. And even in his rookie year, you could have made the argument that he was the best all-around football player. But at the end of the day, he still played for the New York Giants, who weren't an established team. And it looks as though they're trying their hardest to build around him. Of course, they got Daniel Jones the year after, and they're trying to build a team around him to help solidify this New York Giants offense. And I hope that's what they've been doing the past few years, is just going out, getting offensive linemen to help Saquon Barkley gain yardage and help Saquon Barkley help the team win. So that's kind of the situation that he's in right now. And he was also named the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Just saying. Second season, he only played 13 games. He got hurt. He finished with 1,000 yards rushing in the 13 games that he played. He would finish with about 400 yards receiving to give him a total of 1,441 yards from scrimmage. He would finish with 8 total touchdowns. And I mean, this year was kind of a setback, but of course, naturally, everyone has a sophomore slump. But based off what he's done in New York, I think it's completely fair to include him in the list of elite players, elite NFL players, just by what he's been able to do with the team that he's had. Considering the NFL does have the franchise tag, I imagine Saquon Barkley, after his rookie year contract is done, is going to stay in New York. There's no way I can see him leaving New York as long as the franchise tag is still intact. So I really hope that the New York Giants can build a team around him, because this is a player that if the New York Giants make the playoffs, people are going to watch strictly for Saquon Barkley. Well, I mean, hopefully the New York Giants have other good players by the time they make it. And Odell Beckham left. So now it's really just Saquon carrying, just kind of carrying the New York Giants franchise. In terms of ratings right now, people are mainly watching the Giants for Saquon. That's how good of a player he is. But I guess in his future, I think it's very possible that if he stays out of injury, knock on wood, he's gonna be a multiple-time Pro Bowler, a Hall of Famer, and if he gets on a good team in the playoffs, I can see him helping a team win a Super Bowl. He's that dynamic. I guess in terms of what my eyes are seeing, he's the closest thing I've seen to college Reggie Bush, and I never really got to see I never really got a time to see Barry Sanders play in his time. But I guess the closest comp I can give him from players I've seen is like LaDainian Tomlinson, considering he's not incredibly big. He won't run you over, which he probably will because he's that strong. But he still has the shiftiness to just get out the way. And he's incredibly fast and he's incredibly quick. And he even makes Pro Bowl linemen and linebackers look silly with what he's been able to do on this team. And because he plays in New York, I imagine a lot of people watch him, and he plays in the same division as the Philadelphia Eagles, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Washington Redskins. So I naturally he'd have a lot of primetime games, a lot of games where a lot of people just see what he's doing. So I imagine he's getting a lot of hype. He's getting a lot of recognition for what he's doing in New York. So at the end of the day, if you ever get a chance to watch Saquon Barkley, he's number 26 on the New York Giants. If you were unaware, he plays running back. And I think a player that is comparable to him, that's his age, is Christian McCaffrey. I think they're both kind of the same player, but Christian McCaffrey's offense is built a little better around him because his offensive line is a little bit stronger and more just complete. But I think Saquon Barkley will definitely get there. And I think once this next season starts, I wouldn't be surprised if Saquon Barkley won the MVP. He's that level of a player. He's only going to be 23 this year, or he's only 23 right now. And just the whole world's at it. Like, his whole career is ahead of him. And one thing I always advise with these young players is just if you ever want a chance to see a Hall of Fame career from beginning to end, get a chance to watch these young players right now as they're playing. Because when it's all said and done, we're going to look back and say, where's the time gone? But as of right now, as of this very moment on June 1st, 2020, Saquon Barkley, to me, is one of the league's most elite players, and I think he's the best and most complete running back. And I would argue he's the most valuable running back right now, too. I think he has the highest worth on him. But hopefully we'll see if his offensive line builds around him. But I truly think that he is a player for the ages. And I appreciate you for listening to all 11 minutes of this. I'm going to sign off by saying peace.